G'day everyone, welcome back to the Eternal Gathering podcast here. It's the Gatherer with a look at a couple of things today in today's podcast. We're going to be looking at the core set 2021 and going through the cards that have been spoiled. The whole set has been spoiled right now. I'm just going to have a look through what's actually in the set and any impacts it might have on the formats of probably Modern and Pioneer. We also are going to have a bit of a chat about the companions and the update to the rules and how that's affected deck choices and those companions themselves and the gameplay that they see. And that's what we're going to be discussing today primarily. Also would like to kind of flag that we'll be actually doing some more case files later next week, and during that we'll be doing a giveaway thanks to Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar. We're going to give away one bundle of Core Set 2021 to a lucky subscriber of the channel. So if you want to be part of that and have a chance to get yourself a bundle of Core Set 2021, what you need to do is be subscribed to the channel, and when the new case files comes out for Core Set 2021, you would need to have a comment on any of those videos to be in a running, and I will then pick someone at random to get the Core Set 2021 bundle, thanks to Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, who we are partnered with at this channel. So also, I have some more Ikoria pre-release codes for Arena. Just give a comment to any video on this channel and ask for that code, and I will hand that to you. Also be subscribed to the channel. So as always guys, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff, be really helpful. And we'll get started with Core Set, and starting, as you can see here, with the Planeswalkers of the set. We're gonna go just from left to right, starting with Basri Ket. So it's a 3 mana, 3 loyalty Planeswalker, 1 and 2 white. +1, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. It gains indestructible until end of turn. -2, whenever 1 or more non-token creatures attack this turn, create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens that are tapped and attacking. Then -6, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 1/1 white creature soldier token, then put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So with Basri, it is a 3 mana Planeswalker, but it is very creature heavy, kind of need a lot of creatures to be able to have this do anything the turn it comes in. So I could see maybe a white weenie deck possibly playing it. However, I still feel like Gideons are better to be running in those white weenie decks. They can make you tokens, pump creatures for you, and become creatures themselves, the Gideons. Whereas this just pumps a creature for you or makes some more creature tokens by you attacking with the creatures that you already have. An early game, you might want to be attacking and being aggressive, but you're going to be outclassed with other creatures, and if you only got 1/1s on the battlefield, it's not going to be really helpful. The indestructible clause for the +1 ability may be irrelevant at times, especially if you're playing that white weenie strategy. You're going to be having small creatures, and if the opponent has larger creatures, they're going to be able to block that, and yeah, your creature won't die, but you're not going to be putting any extra damage through or anything like that. It would have been better, I think, if it said until the end of your next turn. Therefore, you can have some sort of defender, some blocker for Basri. I think that would have been a much better ability. I think till end of turn clause kind of wrecks its potential in a way. The -6, it really doesn't do much again if you don't have anything on board. If it gives you one creature, that's effectively a 2/2. However, unless your opponent somehow hasn't already taken out some of your creatures, or isn't in a position that they can try and overrun you with their own strategy, then yeah, this could win you the game. But I feel like it's kind of underwhelming. I don't think this is going to see any play. Probably in standard, it would see some play in a mono white kind of deck. But Pioneer Modern, this will not see play at all, in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on Basri. Moving on to Teferi Master Time, the I guess face card of the set. It's a 2 and 2 blue for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker, which has a static ability which is very interesting. You may activate loyalty abilities of Teferi Master Time on any player's turn, anytime you could cast an instant. So basically giving your Teferi the ability to utilize its loyalty abilities at instant speed during your turn and each opponent's turn, which is really interesting, but also a bit dangerous, I think, and I feel, especially in constructed formats where you can build decks using Teferi. I don't know if I'm reading into this wrong, but I really think this is one of the most powerful Planeswalkers that we'll have seen. The ability to activate abilities on your opponent's turn at instant speed is not to be underestimated. This ability can really swing games in your favor. The +1 is draw a card, then discard a card. So on your first turn when you play him, you might not have any mana available to you, but you're going to be able to +1, go to 4 loyalty, and if you want to, +1 again, go to 5 loyalty, and possibly be able to survive any swing back from your opponent at that time. You've also got the -3 ability, which is target creature you don't control phases out, and that means that they basically don't exist until its controller's next turn. So for a whole turn, you have a creature phase out, which also stops you from getting a blowback from the opponent if you feel like Teferi will get attacked and possibly die during your next turn or during your opponent's turn. So to be able to +1 on your turn and a -3 or +1 on their turn is quite strong, putting your Planeswalker up to 5 loyalty, or putting it up to 1 loyalty but surviving, and then untapping next turn, having Teferi alive is quite strong. +1 you can do at instant speed, so being able to, if you don't have, let's say, a counterspell or removal in your hand when you need it, you can +1 in response to a spell being cast to search for that piece. You go a card deep into your deck. You might not get it, you might get it, but in a control deck, which is where I see Teferi being played in control decks, you're likely to find something if you are able to +1 twice, let's say, in a turn order on your turn and then your opponent's turn if you haven't found anything. So being able to do that and find answers like a counterspell or removal piece is quite strong. And then you're obviously plussing him up to his ultimate, which is -10, taking 2 extra turns on this one, which should win you the game. Basically, even if you are a control deck, you should be able to find your win condition in the 2 extra turns that you do get. So, my opinion, I feel like this card is going to be seeing a lot of play in Pioneer and Modern. I feel like this card can go in conjunction, or maybe even possibly take over Jace the Mind Sculptor in Modern. I know that's kind of like a big call to make, but I really feel like this ability to be able to do loads abilities at instant speed on your opponent's turn as well as your turn is quite strong. and not to be underestimated. And I feel like this could be one of the strongest planeswalkers ever printed. Whether or not it needs to be banned, we'll have to find out once the set comes out. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but we did have some very strong planeswalkers previously with Oko, and that was banned. But I guess Oko was something that people didn't really see at first. I do see people saying that Teferi is quite strong, and other people saying that's not, something that to be worried about. But I'm on the camp that, yeah, I think there is something to worry about. This Planeswalker is really powerful, in my opinion. Having those abilities, instant speed, it just changes the game really. Yeah, so my take is that Teferi is going to be heavily played in a lot of formats. Liliana, Waker of Dead, is 2 and 2 black for 4 loyalty planeswalker with +1. Each player discards a card, and then each opponent who can't loses 3 life. -3, target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. And -7, you get Emblem Wave at the beginning of combat on your turn. Put target creature card from a graveyard into the battlefield under your control. It gains haste. So a graveyard kind of strategy with Liliana, you want to be able to have some cards in your graveyard to be able to do the -3, and also the -7, having creatures in your graveyard to be able to reanimate. I like its +1 ability, having discard effect, but also each opponent losing 3 life who can't discard, because especially if you get to full mana Liliana, you're going to be some times where you're going to be plussing and you're not going to be able to get your opponent discard cards. So being able to have the loss of 3 life added onto that really gives this a bit more of an interesting kind of aspect to it. So +1 I think can work really well. We've seen Liliana the Veil being played in older formats. I don't think this replaces Liliana the Veil. I don't really think this will see modern play. However, Pioneer is where I think this could shine. There is a Liliana the Veil in Pioneer, and I feel like this has kind of the same abilities almost. The -3 definitely can kill a creature if you have enough cards in your graveyard to do so. The +1 is Liliana the Veil, but better, as it has the each opponent loses 3 life. The -7 can win you the game because you get that emblem. You can always bring back creatures from the graveyard, and giving them haste as well really can push you through that damage straight away and close the game really quickly. So Liliana, Wake of Dead, I think is a very good planeswalker, and good enough. I think that it could see play in Pioneer. Definitely interesting to be able to try it out there. Standard as well, I would assume it could see play there, but I don't see any play in any other formats that are constructive formats, competitive formats actually. Yeah, so that's my take on Liliana. I would say Liliana's probably the second, or yeah, I reckon second best planeswalker out of the ones that have been printed here, apart from Ugin. I mean, we know Ugin's been reprinted, and we can talk a bit about that. A really good reprint to have Ugin. It's a $50-60 card before its reprint, and it sees play in Modern, in Tron decks. Also sees a lot of play in Commander, so it's really good to see Ugin getting reprinted in a core set. And I'll talk a bit more about reprints as we go through the list. Chandra, Heart of Fire, 3 and 2 red for a 5 loyalty planeswalker. Has 2 +1s. The first +1 is discard your hand, then exile the top 3 cards of your library. To end of turn, you may play cards exiled this way. So able to restock your hand in a way. The only thing is you don't really want to play this +1 when it comes down on the battlefield, as you most likely do not have any mana to be able to play anything that you do get from the top of your library. The other +1, however, is to deal 2 damage to any target. So that's cool, gonna be able to shock. But my problem with this Planeswalker is it costs 5 mana, so it's quite heavily costed. I don't think you will want to play this in a burn deck as the top of your curve. I think there's other things that you would like to play at 4 mana, and not being able to rely on getting 5 mana, because 5 mana, you might not consistently be able to get that in a burn deck, especially if you're playing a low land count like burn decks usually do. I think it would have been a safe thing, or it would have been safe, yeah, to be able to have a +1 to do 3 damage, to do a lightning bolt. Then I would probably rate this card a bit better. But a shock, really, for 5 mana, I don't see how a 1 mana spell on a 5 mana Planeswalker really constitutes you wanting to have this in your deck. The -9, searching your graveyard and library for any number of red instant and sorcery cards, exiling them and then shuffling your library, then casting them this turn, or you'll be able to cast them this turn, and then adding 6 red mana to your mana pool. Yes, you can win the game if you get all your burn spells. 6 mana should be able to win you the game. However, it is a -9. That's going to take you 5 turns to be able to do that ultimate. By then, if you're playing a burn deck and you're up to turn 10 and you haven't won by then, and you still have Chandra on the battlefield at a -9, sorry, then I don't know what the hell you're doing. So Chandra really is pretty much very weak in its abilities, in its cost. Sorry. So I don't see it seeing any play at all in any format. That would be my take for Chandra. One of the more weaker Planeswalkers. Garruk Unleashed, 2 and 2 green for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker. +1, up to 1 target creature gets +3/+3 against trample turn to turn. -2, create a 3/3 green beast creature token. Then if no opponent controls, then if an opponent controls more creatures than you get to put a loyalty counter on Garruk. Then -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, you may search your library for a creature card, put it to the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So, Garruk is interesting. It is a Planeswalker that can protect itself, but -2 to create a 3/3. It can be a -1 if you're behind on board, which is interesting kind of ability. I don't think we've seen that before on Planeswalkers. The +1 is be able to give yourself some reach to be able to do the extra damage with the trample ability, and a +2/+3 on a creature. -7, also very, very good. Only going to take you about 4 turns to be able to do this. So -7, being able to search your library for any creature card and put it on the battlefield from your library gives you flexibility in terms of what you need at that point in time, and being able to do that every single turn. Yeah, it's something that can win you the game, definitely. I think Garruk could see play in Standard, maybe Pioneer. I wouldn't go further than Pioneer. I'm not too sure if it will see play in Pioneer. What deck it would see, like a mono green stompy deck, could possibly play it. However, unlike Liliana, I don't really know if that's going to be something that could definitely see play in that format. Nonetheless, Garruk looks interesting. I like it as a Planeswalker. It is somewhat playable, so it'll be interesting to see where it does see play. We're going to go down to the other mythics in this set. Mangara, the Diplomat. It's basically a card for Commander. It's a 3 and a white for 2/4 lifelink legendary creature, human cleric. When an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures were attacking you and all planeswalkers you control, you get to draw a card. Or whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you get to draw a card. So card advantage in white. Really interesting way to do it. I like that way. It's a good way to be able to bring card draw to white, especially in Commander format, and that's basically what this card is. It is not going to see play, I don't think, anywhere else except for Commander. But I think it will have a healthy price tag because if you are playing white in your deck, especially mono white, you would definitely want a copy of this in your Commander deck. Discontinuity 3 and 3 blue for instant. However, as long as it's your turn, this spell costs 2 and 2 blue less to cast. So that would be 1 and a blue. You end the turn. So you basically remove everything off the stack of abilities and spells. The player whose turn it is discards down to their maximum hand size. Damage wears off, and his turn, and wait until end of turn or effects end. So it's kind of like a time walk in a way. It's interesting that it can be played as an instant, or at sorcery. Well, not really sorcery speed, but on your turn you can play it for 1 and a white, 1 and a blue. Sorry. Be able to stop a lose a game kind of effect if you have any spell or permanent on the battlefield that causes you to lose the game. You can play this discontinuity while that's on stack, therefore negating that ability. So that's cool and interesting to be able to play kind of decks that would run those kind of cards. So very interesting being able to do that on your turn at instant speed. But also playing this on your opponent's turn for 6 mana. Yes, 6 mana is really expensive, but if you do have a control deck and you're playing 1 or 2 of these, time walking, just basically skipping your opponent's turn, giving you an extra turn. We already know how the card from M19, I can't remember the name of it, where you get the extra turn at instant speed for 7 mana. That was being played quite a lot, being played in Pioneer. This costs 1 less mana, and it basically does the same thing in a way, gives you an extra turn. So I can definitely see this thing play in Standard and Pioneer. Modern, unless it's playing like Warless Reclamation kind of decks, those fringe decks, you can see play there. But 6 mana is quite stick for Modern. But definitely Pioneer and Standard, this definitely does have the ability to see play there. Grim Tutor, 1 and 2 black to search library for a card, put that card into your hand and shuffle your library, you lose 3 life. A reprint of a card that comes from a set that didn't see much print at all, therefore this card was $200. I'm not sure the price now. I believe it'd be about $20-30 for Grim Tutor now. But interesting kind of reprint. I like how they're reprinting some cards that haven't seen a lot of prints. That a card that could see play in your Commander decks, and a card that maybe could see play in constructed formats, especially like Standard. I'm not sure about anywhere else, because I mean 3 mana, yes, is a bit cheaper than the usual tutor spells that you see in constructed formats, but you do lose 3 life as well on top of that. Whether or not there's cards that are better at kind of finding you cards that you need, and what kind of decks would need that kind of spell. Obviously it's going to be more like combo decks, but I'm not too sure what combo decks would want to play Grim Tutor. There might be a deck later that might come out, and this card could see play in that deck. Definitely a good reprint. I like the fact that they have been reprinting some cards, and as you can see, you got Baneslayer, Angel, Massacre Worm, Azusa, Lost but Seeking. We talked about Ugin. Really good cards that see play, and they do have a good price tag on them, being reprinted in a standard set, and the core set is a really good place to be putting them in as well. Kind of making people excited about core sets in a way. I think it's a really good take on what Wizards have done, and I like to see that continue in the future. I would like to see more core sets be like core set 2021, where you have good reprints mixed in with some new cards. It gives you some excitement for these sets where typically core sets haven't been that exciting in the past. And that's probably why they did discontinue it in the past, because it wasn't selling as well. But I think they have a new approach to core sets, and I like this new approach, and I hope that it continues. Foreign Emancipation, 3 and 3 red. Resource will deal damage to a permanent or player. Deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. Really good for Commander. Apart from that, it's not going to see any play anywhere else. Costs way too much for any burn decks to play, but in Commander, you can definitely see this seeing play and closing out games itself. Really interesting how it's triple damage. Never seen a triple damage spell. It's always been double, so it's the first time triple damage has come into play in Magic. So really interesting card there for Commander. Then Elder Gargoth is 3 and 2 green for a 6/6 Vigilance Reach Trample. So really good stats there. When it attacks or blocks, you get to choose one. Create a 3/3 green beast token creature. You gain 3 life or you draw a card. Apart from Commander, you've got Uro in constructed formats that does the same thing, but better at 3 mana and be able to cast it from your graveyard for 4. So it's not going to see any play in any of the constructed formats apart from Commander, which is really interesting because it's a 5 mana 6/6 with a lot of good key stats. If they did have haste on it, then maybe we're starting to talk about it possibly seeing play in like stompy decks, mono green stompy decks, but without the haste ability, I don't think it's competitive enough to see play. Basically, Angel, nice reprint. Mystical Worm, also nice reprint. Terror of the Peaks, interesting Dragon, 3 and 2 red for 5/4 flying dragon with spells your opponents cast that target him, cost an additional 3 life to cast, so a bit of protection there. And then whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. So a win more card in a way if you're playing creatures heavy red or Gruul deck. Really cool card, definitely for Commander. Definitely would play this in a Dragon build. Being able to deal damage with this to any target is quite interesting as well. You can do it to Planeswalkers, creatures, and players. In terms of rares, Azusa, Lost but Seeking is interesting. We've got Containment Priest coming into Modern. This will see play definitely, I believe, in human builds. Pioneer also, it will definitely see play. A really good reprint into Modern and Pioneer. A lot of people talking about Chandra's Incinerator. It has a weird ability where it costs X less to cast, where X is the total amount of non-combat damage dealt to your opponents this turn. So you can theoretically, in Modern, let's say, play a Rift Bolt turn 1, turn 2, play a Lightning Bolt, and then Chandra's Incinerator. So getting a 6/6 trample on the battlefield on turn 2, because you would have got 3 damage from the Lightning Bolt and 3 damage from the Rift Bolt being cast from suspension. So yes, that is the Dreamland. However, it's not a very good top deck for those decks. You would top deck it, then you have to wait to draw another burn spell the next turn to be able to play it in most cases. Garrick's Harbinger is interesting as well. It's a 4/3 for 3. It has hexproof from black. And then when it deals combination player or planeswalker, look at top card of your library equal to the amount of damage you do. So at this case, it probably would be 4. And then reveal creature card or Garrick planeswalker card and put it into your hand and put the rest in the body of the library. So some card advantage there. 3 mana is quite well costed for this. For 3 protection from black, so be able to have some sort of protection from removals in a way. Cats and dogs are quite heavily featured also in this set. as well as goblins. And we will get to Conspicuous Snoop, which is probably one of the better rares in the set in terms of its ability to be played in construct formats. 2 red for a 2/2, play the top card of your library revealed, and you may cast goblin spells from the top of your library. So obviously really good in a goblin command deck and a goblin decks in general. If you want to play this in modern, you have a win condition, and I'll get to it in a sec. So as long as the top card of your library is a goblin card, this creature has all activated abilities of that card. So you can play Kiki and Monk Fanatic and the black, I can't forget its name, but the Harbinger from the Lorwyn cycle. So if you have those cards in your deck, let's say you have Conspicuous Snoop on the battlefield, and you play your Harbinger from your hand the next turn. Then you search your library for Kiki, putting it on top of your library. Then you make infinite copies of Conspicuous Snoop using Kiki's ability, and then you make a copy of the Harbinger. When it enters the battlefield, you get to search your library for another goblin, putting Monk Fanatic onto the top of your library, then giving all your infinite Conspicuous Snoops that you have on the battlefield the ability to sacrifice themselves to deal 1 damage to any target, and winning the game there on the spot. So you do have a turn 3 potentially combo to win there. It does take a little bit of setting up to do. You do need to have specific cards in your hand, yes, but it has that ability, so it's really interesting for Goblin decks to have that ability. Whether or not that sees constructed play, I think it's going to be a more of a fringe kind of deck. I don't see it as being a Tier 1, Tier 2 deck. It's more of a Tier 3 deck or lower, but having that ability is quite interesting. And also playing this in Commander, giving you that extra abilities to be able to cast cards off the top of your deck that are goblins, also gives your deck in Commander a bit more threat in the longer games. I play goblin deck in Commander, and I guess that's one of the ways that you can lose if you don't have enough creatures to be able to quickly attack your opponents, which is what my deck does. It can kind of dwindle, and you're then outpaced later in the game. Heroic Intervention is a really good reprint, coming back into standard as well. Item of interest being talked about as well. 2 and a white for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creature cards with command cost 3 or less from your graveyard until this leaves the battlefield. Then 1 and a white. Until end of turn, you may cast a creature spell from among the cards exiled with Item of Endurance without paying its mana cost. So you get to get 1 free creature spell. That could be 3 mana for the cost of 2, which kind of cheats on mana a bit there. Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting. Maybe for if you do have combos and they've destroyed a card for your combo. Let's say like you're playing like a Devoted Druid deck in Modern. Being able to cast cards from your graveyard that have been killed. Let's say they killed a Devoted Druid and you got a Vizier Remedies on the battlefield. You play this, and the next turn you can return that Devoted Druid back to the battlefield to try and combo off. It's interesting. I don't think it's seen much play in the older formats, but interesting card to take and an interesting card to play around with. Not sure if there is much more really to talk about. We've got Gadrak. He's interesting. 3 mana for 5/4 flying, but it can't attack unless you control 4 more artifacts. At the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. You could play this in an artifact heavy deck. Have this come out as early as turn 2 or 3, and then you have a 5/4 flyer, which is quite good, but it needs to have those artifacts. It needs to be an artifact heavy deck, and also be able to cast it for red. So I'm not sure if it can see a lot of play in constructed formats, but it's definitely something that's interesting. Stormwing Entity is 3 and 2 blue for 3/3, Flying Prowess, and enters battlefield square 2. However, it costs 2 and a blue less, so it's going to cost you 1 and a blue to cast if you cast an instant sorcery spell this turn. So people have been talking about this, and the Arclight Phoenix decks in Modern and Pioneer. Yes, I think this could see play in that, definitely for sure. I wouldn't be playing a 4 of, I'd be playing maybe a 2 of in those decks, but definitely something that could see play in those decks, and a very interesting kind of concept again for this card. Sublime Epiphany, 4 and 2 blue for an instant. So you can choose one or more. So you can choose all of them, potentially. So you can counter target spell, counter target activated or triggered ability, return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, and target player draws a card. It is gonna see play in standard for sure, this card. 6 mana is a lot of mana, but this card has a lot of abilities, and they're really, really relevant and really good abilities. I can definitely see this seeing play in Pioneer as well, and possibly Modern. Yes, possibly Modern. It costs 2 blue and 4. For Modern, that is a bit steep, but if you're playing control decks, you'll be able to get to that easily. If you're playing control properly, you'll be alive by then. And this could be like a 5th and 6th copy. I probably wouldn't play more than 2 of a Cryptic Command in your deck. Being able to counter spell, draw a card, and bounce something of your opponent or yourself. And making a token of a creature you control, possibly. Really, really strong abilities. I think it definitely could see play in Modern. Definitely can see play in Pioneer. 6 mana isn't too high for Pioneer. It is getting there. At Standard, this will be an all-star as well. I think Sublime Epiphany actually is a sleeper of this set. No one's really talked too much about it. They kind of dismissed it because of its 6 mana cost, but I really think this card could definitely see play and definitely be one of the better cards of this set. Scavenger Ooze and Rune Halo also got reprints, really good reprints themselves. And I don't really think there's much else to talk about from this set. If we go through the cards, we've got the reprints of the Scrylands. You got your Shrines. I don't think they're going to see any play. Nyambi is interesting. Being able to discard a legendary card to draw 2 cards, and then also being able to return a creature you control back to your hand for removal, because that's flash. If they're getting removed, you can flash this in, save that card, and then if you do draw extra copies of Nyambi, you can discard that to draw 2 cards. So interesting kind of card in itself. Not sure if it's going to see much play. Rada, Heart of Code, I think is also quite an interesting card. 1 red and a green for 3/3. As long as it's turn, it gets first strike. You may look at top card of your library at any time, and you may play lands from the top of your library. It gets +X/+X until end of turn where X is the number of lands you control for 4 and a green and red. Definitely, I think a card that could see playing standard. Maybe Pioneer, but definitely standard. And I think it's a nice card also in land heavy commander decks. So I think that's a really cool card itself, Rada. And then we got probably another really good card in Spark Hunter Massacre. You have to discard a card to cast it, which is okay. You can make that into a positive for you. Protection from Planeswalkers, can't be bounced, can't be targeted by Teferi, which is really, really good in a format where Teferi is being seen on a play, and that's basically every format. It can deal 1 damage to any target Planeswalker for 1 mana, and then for 3 mana, it can get indestructible turn. So if there was ways to kill it, let's say you wanted to play a Fatal Push or a burn spell like Flame Slash to destroy it, you got some way to try and protect it if you have your mana available. Very strong sideboard card, I think. We'll see sideboard play in Standard, possibly Pioneer. I'm not sure about Modern, if it's going to be able to see play in Modern, but it definitely could creep in there. Really, really, really interesting way to deal with planeswalkers, and I think very strong if you're playing it against a deck that does have planeswalkers that are very problematic. Let's say most planeswalkers are problematic, especially Teferi, the 3 fairy, and the new Teferi that's coming out. Also, this could definitely be a foil to those cards. Chromatic Ori, 7 mana. It is basically a commander card, being able to make all your mana tap for any color. You got Solemn Simulacrum getting reprinted. Torment Script also getting reprinted. They're really good reprints. And then you got your Land Cycle. Fatal Passage also getting reprinted. Interesting reprint. So overall, it's a really interesting set. Definitely you can see value in this set, especially with the reprints that they do choose. Teferi is also interesting, having 9 different versions you can open. So you're 3 times as likely to be able to open Teferi than any other Planeswalker, or any other Mythic for that case. So you will see Teferi much more often, which is good because I do feel Teferi is going to be a sought after card in this set. It's interesting that it had a lot of different arts for it. I think it's a bit too much. And if you do look at the arts, I don't have it here, but some of them I think there's 2 that you really can't tell what's happening in them. But the other 2 have different colors. Around here there's like purple and blue or something in this area here. So it's really cool, I guess, to have that if you're into that kind of stuff, but at the same time it's like, a bit redundant in a way. But yeah, I really like what they've done with Core Set. Jumpstart also got previewed, and I can talk a little bit about Jumpstart. I think Jumpstart is not a really great set. Unfortunately, I was really looking forward to it. I thought the concept of it was really cool, being able to get 2 packs, put them together, and you got a deck. However, they're all curated kind of lists, and the rares in those packs are mostly M21 rares and mythics, so you got more chances to get Teferi, Liliana, Garruk, Basri, and Chandra in Jumpstart. Notably not Ugin. I think Ugin will still have quite a big price tag. I think Ugin's going to be one of the harder planeswalkers to open up. However, they also don't have really great reprints. I was hoping they would probably reprint like Surgical Extraction or something like that in a Phyrexian one, but they've got Shouldred, which apart from Commander doesn't see much other play. It is a little bit expensive in a way. I think it was like a $10-20 card, but I would have liked to see some other reprints for cards that see play in more constructed formats apart from Commander. They're leaning quite heavily into Commander this year. I'm not sure if that's the right way to go, especially for people that want to be playing the formats like Modern or Pioneer in constructed and competitive formats. We want some more reprints for those sets, but it's also good, I guess, that they are reprinting some higher value cards overall. But Jumpstart, yeah, it was a bit underwhelming, if I'm being honest, my opinion. I'm not really looking forward to Jumpstart, probably won't get anything, but Core Set definitely does look interesting, and I can see some value in that set. And then I want to quickly just talk about, I know we're going for time here, but the new Commander rule, not Commander, Companion rules. Commander did have another update as well, but Companion is what I want to talk about. So Companion got a nerf. It's now going to cost you 3 generic mana to bring a Companion from your sideboard into your hand, and then you can play it from your hand afterwards. So it's going to cost, on average, an extra turn to bring out your Companion. So this affects most decks, because most decks were playing the Companions like Lurrus, Zerda, Kira, Gigantha, Obosh, Garuda, and Yorion. Literally and Mori. Karuga was seeing a little bit of play, but not as much. they weren't seeing play as much, but it affected basically every other companion. We have now, I guess, some redundancy in having companions. Um, you don't want to have companions now if you don't really want to be playing them for any reason, which is what some decks did, like Gigantha and Kahira would be playing in the kind of control decks because they just could. Now you're seeing that they're not being played in those decks anymore. Obosh and Garuda had decks centered around them, and now they no longer exist. Zerda also, it also no longer exists as a companion or Karuga. The two strongest companions, Yorion and Lurrus, arguably, they still are seeing some play after this update. The update really didn't affect Yorion that much, as Yorion was being played in decks that wanted to play it later in the game anyways. So being able to play it for 8 mana, to turn 8, and waiting for that turn to be able to use its ability, which is what the decks that play it usually do want to use its ability. It hasn't really nerfed it that much. It does nerf it in terms of like it won't happen for 3 more turns, but it's still doing what it wants to do, and it still sees a lot of play. As we can see in Pioneer, it sees a lot of play still. It's being played in Esper Control, Azura's Control, and Super Friends decks. And I think moving forward in Pioneer, if you are playing a Super Friends deck, and you are going on the route of Agent of Treachery, and what's his name, Luca, kind of combo, then Yorion is a card that you will always want to be putting in your deck. And I don't, if it becomes problematic again, and it's something that sees a lot of play, I think Yorion could get the ban in Pioneer, and I'm not sure about Modern. Modern might, it's a bit too slow for Modern, but definitely Pioneer, it could be seen to be a card that wasn't nerfed enough and may need to see a ban, especially playing decks with what's it called? Did I have it here? Yeah, Fire's Invention. So you can play Fire's Invention turn 4, then turn 5 you can play your Yorion because you just pay 3 mana, get it in your hand, and you cast it for free. So in Pioneer, I think the best thing to do is probably ban Yorion if this sees a lot of play, which it is seeing some play at the moment, as opposed to maybe getting Fire's Invention banned. Fire's Invention could get a ban as well in Pioneer if this is problematic, but I think Yorion sees play in a lot more different decks and is probably more of a problematic card overall, and could possibly see a ban in a future if people are playing it quite a lot and it's becoming a bit more of a meta. So that's Yorion, and then you got Lurrus. Lurrus still sees some play in Modern. You got Lurrus playing in like this Urza decks and Burn. So Burn is still seeing play as a companion, being able to bring it out later in the game when you don't have anything else to do, and playing spells from your graveyard is helpful for that deck. And then it's been played in main board now of Urza decks, which is where I think Lurrus should be seeing more play. I think Lurrus as a main board option is really good. I don't think it's problematic in Modern being part of Burn's companion. I think you can still play Burn without Lurrus, and I don't think Lurrus does much more for that deck than if you weren't playing Lurrus in a Burn deck. Yeah, it gives you a little bit more late game, but having a one-off copy, you can easily get rid of it It's still going to cost them 3 mana to put it in their hand, then playing it the subsequent turn. I don't think a deck like Burn will have a lot of mana to be able to do that all in one turn, or get the I guess payoff of having Lurrus on the battlefield straight away, unless they got a Mishra's Bobble, which is I guess their first kind of payoff, or if they do have that 4 mana, being able to play another 1 mana spell like Goblin Guide or Monastery Swift Speed. So I think the new companion rule has nerfed the companions except for Yorion, and Yorion might be a card that could get banned in the future if it just sees too much play. So yeah, interesting that they've done that. I don't think they've done something like this in quite some time, where they have had to errata a whole ability really, or a whole mechanic. I haven't seen that happen in Magic before. But nonetheless, it shows that they are pushing the boundaries of what Magic cards do. They are pushing the power level. I definitely see that, and people have been complaining about that. I'm in a camp where it's interesting for them to be able to push the power level. Granted that they don't warp the formats too much, which was what Companion did. So I like to see them try it maybe more sparingly, as opposed to trying to push something each and every step, which is what they've been doing. But I like the fact that they are trying to push into new kind of avenues and trying to make things a bit more interesting. So that is it for today's podcast. As always, guys, if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please do so. Check out Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar on Facebook. If you want to have a chance at getting some core set 2021 bundles from the channel. Also, give a comment if you want some pre-release arena codes for Ikoria. So with that all being said, everything on the stack has resolved, and good games everyone.
G'day everyone, it's the Gatherer here. Thanks for checking out the channel. And if you live in Australia and love Magic the Gathering, then our affiliate Facebook group, Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar, is the place to go to purchase awesome singles and sealed product for bargain prices. It's a page where you can bid daily for the cards you need, or for the cards that you don't but can't resist, as the thrill of the hunt is too much to pass. Check them out in the link below.